Hello all you table tennis people. Today I'm bored, it's quarantine, got nothing to do, can't go to my club, so I'm just stuck at home. I've been playing around with different grips with this here table tennis pedal. If anyone's curious, it's just a Steiga charger. I know, I'm very poor. Today I'm talking about the grip that I use. Of course, being in quarantine, there's not a whole lot I can practice. I can't play with anyone else except for my wife, who isn't really that good, but you know, she tries her best. Luckily, I do have a table that's only 1 inch short of a standard ping pong table regulation, but still has curved edges, and I don't think it's quite wide enough. But again, today we're just going to be talking about my grip. Now, growing up, I used this kind of grip, just like weird kind of shake hand, but I had 2 fingers up instead of the classic. Then I eventually moved to kind of like a modified pin hold, where I was more doing whatever this is, you know, there's no finger wrap around, just, I don't know. It didn't really work out. But late high school, early college, I developed a new hold to kind of handicap myself because none of my friends really were that serious. So I used to call it the boxer because I would kind of just hold it like this. You basically hold it like you would a knife if you're stabbing, I guess. But you would punch instead of just like swinging. Yeah, it didn't make any sense. I didn't know what I was doing, but neither did my friends, so it was just kind of a way to actually play with them. But recently I've been getting back into table tennis, like really hard. So the last 2 months I've been going crazy. But since I've been home all day and I don't have a lot to practice or can practice, I started playing around with this old boxer grip again. Except for now, I've changed the name to a thief. So now it's more of like a thief, because instead of holding it and going above the ball for whatever reason, you know, you do a swing. You know, it's kind of like standard shake hand. I mean, really what it's most like is like the Chinese pin hold. But I have it to where it's completely closed off for the most part. Sometimes my fingers do slip to do a Chinese pin hold just because sometimes it just feels more natural, especially for a backhand, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, you actually can get some pretty sick rallies in topspin doing this hold. What I do basically is whenever I keep my wrist really limp, it's actually kind of scary, I've thrown my paddle a few times. I keep my wrist and my grip really limp, and so whenever the ball's coming at here with topspin or whatever, and I go to strike the ball, I actually whip my wrist like right as I hit it, and so it actually creates quite a bit of topspin, and I can really rip it. I think the strength comes from the serves, actually. For the serve, I kind of do like a shushing serve, where it's, you know, you come down on it like you would a regular pin hold. Not quite a ghost serve, I guess, but just like a standard backspin serve. But since I hold it like the thief class, I can actually have the paddle rest on the top part of my fingers here, and whenever I strike the ball, I squeeze, which creates this kind of motion. And so like with pin hold, you do like a wrist thing, and I also do a wrist thing, but it's the combination of me coming down, squeezing, and doing a wrist. It's like one fell slice, and it actually creates a super amount of backspin. Now my rubbers kind of suck, so you probably aren't gonna see that crazy ghost serve bounce back, but doing it this way is just so consistent. I don't know what it is about it, but it is kind of scary because you are holding it very, very loose, and then you're whipping it with your hand. Another thing that really sucks, and it's probably just because I have this old Steiga charger and the freaking handle is like a big stick. It like really rubs your inside of your thumb knuckle. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you can also do a really nice reverse pendulum. And it's kind of a similar thing where I hold it with just my thumb at first. And so whenever I do the motion to do that reverse pendulum, it like actually is a pendulum instead of it, you know, being like just between these 2 fingers and using your wrist only. I do the whole shebang, but since it's literally like pendulum, I can do a similar thing where it goes also with my wrist. So it creates like extra spin. But yeah, I mean, table tennis is a very, very, very old sport, so I'm not necessarily saying that no one has ever used their paddle like this. And it is really similar to the Chinese pin hold. I just have my other fingers over here, usually. I don't necessarily keep my 3 fingers on this the whole time. But one thing that I do have to do is for backhands, it gets a little tricky. It's really hard for you to have it gripped hard or whatever and then like really whip it around. But to keep it controlled and to get ready for the next hit, because whenever you're using that pendulum thing where it's sliding around in your hand, you know, you might have to return it again and it's really hard to get back into position. So at that point, I do a very, very, very shallow or deep, whenever you're farther down, Chinese pen hold. So I'm like all the way down at the bottom of my racket, but I have the 3 fingers supporting it. So I can go from this to here and really get a good whip around. Does that make sense? So I think the strengths of this grip, the Thief class, if it doesn't already have a name, I've done so much research and I haven't found anything about it. Just practicing at home, it feels around the same consistency as a regular shake hand, maybe slightly less, but I mean, shake hand has been my go-to grip for the past 2 months, so I just play this whenever I'm goofing off. But now that I'm in quarantine, I really want to kind of develop this because I think it can kind of throw some people off. The strengths of this grip, I'd say, are the serves. I think there's a really good potential with the serves, especially using that really light holding so you can grip and whip that around really fast. I think you can get a lot of power from forehands. I think backhand is pretty standard, but you can still get some power from it. You don't have a whole lot of reach. You do lose some reach because obviously the reach is different. Like a shake hand grip, you can really reach pretty far, you know, compared to a pen hold, and then compared to the Thief class, here's about where you're getting, you know. So the reach is way different. Another disadvantage is you do have to do some switch. So if you're going from forehand to backhand, you do have to switch from this grip to here, like pretty quickly. Otherwise, doing this really isn't doing a whole lot for you. It's really inconsistent. You need to get to this kind of switch really quick. The short game is kind of weird and awkward. To get a good flick is kind of hard. It's like with the shake hand grip, you can really get a good flick, like jumping forward whenever it's short or whatever, and you don't have to do much changing. But yeah, I'm super curious if you guys know if this has a name, like if someone has done this before, like a professional in the past. It would be really cool to see how they handle the backhand switch or the shallow game or the serves even. I'm really eager to try it out on players that aren't just my friends, and also with a better rubber, maybe a new paddle. I'm in the market for a new paddle, but money's really rough right now, as I'm sure plenty of you are dealing with. But yeah, let me know if you've seen this before and if you have any knowledge about it or any advice. I'd love to hear it. Yeah, thanks for watching.